Hey, what's going on, everyone? So today what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at a photo here, and we're going to kind of walk through my normal processes after capturing the image. Obviously capturing the photo is going to be the most important thing, but that's not the end of the job. So for most clients, there's still going to be some post work, and I don't have a problem with that. That's just, a part of the job. So usually what I do is I go in and I look at for imperfections that makeup didn't capture, or things that may have appeared in the image that I didn't see even being tethered or something like that, like this hair going through the eye, or hairs all over the place. So the key to your post editing is going to be what to keep and what to get rid of. So we want to try and maintain as much of the person's natural skin tone. She has freckles, beautiful skin. I'm a big fan of freckles, so I don't really want to remove them. I may lighten or soften the skin just a touch, because that's very popular. But starting out, the first things that I start off with is that I go in and I start looking for things that could be problematic. So, like here, I see in her eyebrows, there's a little flakiness. I would just go in and touch that up really quick. And I did see another area here and a couple little scars. So I would go in and clean those up. And I switch between tools, so it just depends on, what the texture is and what I'm trying to preserve as much of it as possible. So like these little flyaway hairs, I don't want to get all of them because, having a little bit of wispiness of hair is, is nice. It doesn't have to be completely, perfect to that extent. But you want to go through, like here, again, where I mentioned about the eye. So you have to be really careful. You go in and make little small sections at a time to try and maintain the texture as much as possible, the skin texture, that is. And it can be time consuming. There's no doubt about that. It can be time consuming, but it is worth it. And you just take little small bits here and there. Now for this eye, we're going to zoom in really, really close so we can see exactly what we're working with here. So I'm going to try and get this little bit of hair, and I can see some eyelashes here, and again here. And still there's a little hair there. Now most of these things that I'm looking at, most people would not notice these things because they won't be zoomed in quite this far. So if it's something that is obvious, then I say yes, take it out, or fix it as best you can. But if it is something that the average person would not be able to see, I would not concern myself with it, because sometimes in editing you can do more harm than good. So keep that in mind. Like I see a few more hairs up in here. I'll try to get those. But if I start to see like unusual patterns or something like that, then I'll usually back away from it, and maybe choose a different tool. I'm still going to go in and whiten the eyes and things like that, but right now what I'm just looking for is things that I just don't want to be in the image. And you also got to be careful of creating patterns, where when you're moving things around. So here's another hair. And we just want to move it out. It's not too bad. Then we have one that's going here. So we're going to try and lasso that. Come down a little further. And so on. You just, repeat. until you get the end result that you're looking for. And again, like I said, you don't have to go ridiculously above and beyond, because many of these things, if you zoom back out, so if we look at this at its full size, that's the image that you're working with, right? But even zoomed in, or a normal view would be something like that. But what we're looking at is for things that we can correct because we can see them, like the eyelashes here. I'm going to try to get the whole section. And here's another one over here. So you just got to be really careful, lasso around it, and then look for an area that can complement it. And the rest we'll take care of with our eye whitening and things like that, when we run that script. But for right now, we're just looking to clean up as much of this as possible. And some of these things, they just cannot be avoided because, just things happen during a shoot. People are moving around, and a lot of times you're working with, obviously these, they may not all be models. So you can easily make someone really intimidated by continually changing things. So sometimes you just got to go with the flow and, imagine your post work, even while you're shooting, you're like, okay, well, I know if I capture this, I can do such and such. That's again why I say it is very important, if you can shoot tethered, to do so. That way you can see some of these images, and you may have the time to zoom in, and you'll see little, imperfections that, things that normally, at a normal focus length you wouldn't see. So you just go in and look for those. And like I said before in some of the other videos, demonstrating some of these panels, yes, I have a tendency to really use the panel at its full potential. And that is really not my goal, because that's not something that I would most likely be providing to a client. Now, as you see here, there's a few little sun marks on her hand. You can remove those if you choose to, but most people are aware that they're there. And if they want them, or if they're not concerned about them, then I say don't focus on it, because you'll wind up making the person look too perfect or too plasticky, and it just won't be realistic. All right, so let's say we're good with that. Let's go out here and let's see if there's anything else that we want to fix. Slow flyaways are okay. I do see a few more hairs, but I'm not going to go, into my normal processes of removing every little hair that I see, because it's really not that big of a deal. Okay, so we're good. So normally what I would do is I would just go ahead and flatten this image, because I'm pretty sure all the healing that I've done is going to stick. That's, where I am. Now, worst case scenario, I could always, go in and do additional, like right here. I do see something that I want to take out, so I'm going to go ahead and add just a new layer. And on a Mac, that's just Command J. And all I'm going to do here is just go in and fix that really quick. And then I'm going to flatten this again. There we go. So, you will see more things. And as you move around, you'll see even more of them. So as we're looking at this eye, one of the things that I want to do is I want to go in and remove some of these veins in the eyes. Now, many of these panels, they do have, if you run their script, they will have something that will, work with removing veins in the eyes and things like that. But usually what I do is that I just go in and, if I can see them, I'll just try and take them out as best I can. because usually when you go and you start lightening the eyes and you start whitening the eyes, a lot of this will go away. But if you can, make your job that much easier by just removing some of these things in advance. Like here's a little soft vein back here. We can just move that to a different textured area. Let's look on this side. There's a little mascara up there. And drag that out. Okay. So let's look at the other eye really quick. I don't see too much there. There's some redness in here. But like I said, some of this, we'll get that when we get to the phase of whitening the eyes and things like that. So, and if you've noticed, I have not done any frequency separation or anything like that. I haven't done, I'm just basically using one tool. I'm just going in and cleaning up what little imperfections that I see. I'm trying to maintain as much of the natural skin tone as possible. And each time I zoom out, I may see another area, or something that catches my attention. And I'm like, okay, well, I want to fix that. And I see this right here. And this is just the reality of it. So if this is a career that you guys are interested in pursuing, yes, it is important to find a way to speed up your workflow as fast as you possibly can. But it's going to be a time process. It's not going to be something where there's one magic bullet where you can just click on one little button and everything is just going to work. But I'm not going to do any frequency separation as far as this image because I really want to maintain the texture as much as possible. But what I am going to do is go in here and I'm going to run the Magic Eye script, and you guys will see basically what that does. It creates its own folder, and then you can go in like this first one. I'm going to drag this out so you can see what it says here. So this first, starting from the bottom up, the first one says, clean eyes or white area. So that's referring to this area here. So if we zoom in, okay, and since you can see that this is a black mask, obviously your brush needs to be white. So we're going to choose our brush, make sure it's a soft brush, and I'm going to bring the flow down to maybe about 11% just to see where it starts. And I'm just going to start painting in, and you'll start to see it starts to whiten the eye. But you don't want to do it too much till it no longer looks realistic. So you see there's some shadowing here. I want to maintain that shadowing because that's natural. So I'm just going to go in and just hit some of these areas. Like here it's kind of pinkish, you want to keep that. So you just want to lighten up the areas that are around. And you will wind up also adjusting the opacity of this layer. So if you look at this eye here, it's at 100%. So I would bring that down maybe to about 75%, and everything still looks good. So this next layer is for lightening, and if you were going to lighten some of the areas here, if there were still some dark areas that were mixing in and you wanted to lighten those, then what you would want to do is click on this layer here, and I don't use this that often, but I think it's a black brush. Let's see. Nope, it's not. It's the white brush. So you would leave your white brush, and then you would just go in here and you could just lighten it up just a touch. And you see that's way, way too much, right? So I'm going to go ahead and bring that down to somewhere around 14%. And you're just going to dab, just to add just a little dimension there. And then go back in on this side. You might do the same. Now, one of the things that I'll do to try and maintain the volume of the eye so that it still looks realistic even after all this touch-up and stuff is I'll do just a straight line right across the eye. And what that does is just kind of separates it, and it creates, I'll show you what that looks like at 100%. So you see that line that's going across here? What that's doing is just creating a little bit more dimension in the eye. And then, I mean, you can go in and you can adjust, you know, you can change the eye color, you can sharpen the eye, you can do all different types of things. Now this next, I'm going to skip this layer above, and we're going to jump up to this layer here. This one is used for darkening. So as you can see, there's a black layer here. So your brush would be white. And all you're going to do is you're just going to get a really small brush, and you're just going to go in and you're just going to start darkening around the eye here, just like that. And we can go over to this one and do basically the same thing. You're just running right around the edge, just to give it a little bit more dimension. Yeah, I'm good with that. Okay, so we're going to zoom out. And we're going to turn this on and off so you guys can see the before and after. So that's what it was like before, and that's after. And I still think that's just a bit too much, so I'm still going to bring that down some. I just want it to be really, really natural, as close to natural as we can get. Let's bring it down a little bit more. I think I'm going to rest somewhere around 40%. That looks good, okay? Just a little bit of pop in the eyes, right? So overall, you can do, you know, a ton of work on your images. You can go in and soften the skin, and you can remove all of the imperfections and, you know, the little flyaway hairs and things like that, which I'm noticing another one right here. But that's not so, you know, defined that it's a big deal to me. I just noticed it because I can see it here. But now, say for instance, if you did want to soften the skin somewhat, you know, there are a number of different scripts that you can run in this specific panel. But, you know, as I told you before, I've run a number of different panels for different things. So the Retouch Academy, their second panel is for makeup. So you have a number of different things that you can do here, which I really like. You know, you can resurface the skin. Let's go back to this layer because so I'm going to go ahead and flatten this. And we're going to come in a little close here. So you see you have some shine in different areas. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I like the highlights, you know, versus the shadows. You know, that's what creates the dimension in the photo. But you can blot if you wanted to. And you could go in, and I just ran the script. And you could go in and you could just start removing a little bit of that shine. If it was more like oiliness or something like that, you could go in and you could remove that. Brush this a little big. And you could just, you know, take it out just a touch. Don't take it all out, because you want there to be some dimension. You don't want the skin to be just completely flat or devoid of shine, because natural, healthy skin is going to have some reflection of light, and there's going to be some shine in it. And just like this little area, patchy area here, there's a number of different ways that you could address this. You know, one, you could use your clone stamp. You could do content aware. There's just a number of different ways you could go in to adjust this. I'm going to bring that down just a little bit. There we go. And that looks good to me, so I'm just going to go ahead and flatten that. You know, this is for demonstration purposes. So this panel also has a highlighter, a contour, bronzer. It has a number of different things that you could do, you know, for makeup. And it also has something for a script for whitening the eyes, lashes. You can do smoky eye. You can do eyeshadow, things like that. So like if you wanted to run like a little smoky eye script, you could. That's at 100%. So I'm going to bring that down maybe to about 18 so we can see what it's going to look like. Well, maybe we need it to be more than that. And you start to see the little smoky eye coming in here. And it depends on where you're going to apply it, right? So let's say we're just going to do something like that. I'm not a fan of that, but let's try something else. Let's do, reverse these. And let's just put just a little touch, like here in the corner. Just add just a little dimension. You know, normally that would work, but I'm just not feeling it for, you know, her. So, yeah, I'm not liking that. So I'm going to take that out and delete the whole group. But, you know, like anything else, you know, guys, if you're purchasing these panels, all of these scripts, you know, have different things that you can do. There's tons and tons of video out there showing you how you can utilize a lot of this stuff. You know, like here in the finishing and exporting, you have liquefy, sharpening. So let's say if you wanted to sharpen, you know, her eyebrows, if you wanted to sharpen the lips, whoops. Okay, let's flip that. So if you wanted to sharpen her lips, you could. You wanted to sharpen the eyebrows, just add a little bit more dimension to it. And that's a bit much, so let's bring that down a touch too. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And you can always click here on your mask, option click. So you choose your mask, option, and then click on it. And you can see exactly where you're painting. But in this case, what we really want to focus on is maintaining as natural look to the skin as possible. She has a little blush here, a little blush on this side. It looks good. So I'm not really going to adjust much of that. So again, unless the client is specifically asking for something, you know, there's like, I really want that, you know, plasticky, you know, porcelain skin. You know, there's a ton of different ways you can get there. You know, say like, for instance, another panel that I use, this Retouch Pro, they have a really easy frequency separation. They have an easy skin softening script that you can run. So let's flatten this, and we're going to just run this script just so you can see what I'm talking about. It takes a few seconds for it to process, but you know, once it's done, so you again have your black layer, your brush is on white, then you can adjust the size of your brush, and then you can just go in and just start brushing. So as we're brushing in, as you see, it's really softening the skin, giving it that look that most people want when they see their images, or they imagine what they want them to look like from things they see on Instagram, or you know, whatever it is, right? So we're just going to go in and just soften this up just a little bit. And the hands, any skin that's near the area, especially if you're doing like headshots, you want to try and keep it consistent. I see a lot of people will do a lot of work on the face, and then the hand will be in the shot somehow, and the skin on the hand looks totally different than the skin on the face. And I mean, you know, that happens, you know, due to lighting or something like that, but you know, that's something that you want to take into consideration. So I'm just going to just, you know, lay this on kind of thick, and you guys can see what I'm talking about. So like here, option click on this mask, I can just zoom in and just, you know, continue painting onto the white areas, because that's the areas that we're affecting. And I can see all of the areas that, because of the brush that I'm using, I may not be catching all of them. So I can really just really focus in here, like around the nose. I can tell that's the nose, you know, and just paint these areas in. And then you can then always, you know, roll back the opacity if you think it's too much once you complete it. So I'm just going to go ahead and get that area. I think there's some hair in there, but you know, we'll worry about that. You can always mask it back out. Okay, so let's say that's good enough. And we can see where we are there, right? So we're going to close this little panel for now. And we're going to zoom in a little bit. That's too much. So that's with this effect. And as you notice, I didn't go over the eyebrows or the eyes here, but I can, just to soften that up a little bit, and under the eyes. So we'll see our before and after. So if we turn it off, and back on, off, on. So what I would do if I was going to do something like this, I would bring this down where it's still softening the skin, but it's not removing so much of the texture and her natural freckles and things like that. The other option is that you could invert this and just only apply it exactly where you want it. But like here into the hairline, I would go in just a little bit just to make sure the skin stays consistent. It's going to soften the hair a little bit, but that's not a big deal. So got that area. That looks good. So to me, everything looks beautiful. That's a win. And I mean, like I said, there's no limit to the things that you can do. You could go in and darken her lipstick. You could make it look wetter, something like that. One of the panels has that built in for wet lips. And which one is it? And let's see. I don't think it's this one, so it's not the Beautify panel. It may be. Is it the Pro X? No. I don't know. I mean, I know I've seen it. I just don't remember where I saw it. So if we're looking at lips, here it is. So it's under the Retouch Pro panel, and it has a wet lip script that you can run, and it just adds, depending on the color of the lips. Let's bring that way down. You can just give it just a little bit of shine. And keeping the lip liner, you always want the lip liner to be darker than the actual lipstick. So, you could always just go in and do a little bit of dodging or, a burning in here just to add a little bit more dimension to it. But I think that would look strange with her face because that would make her lips stand out just a bit too much. But we can do the lip glow. Just going to paint that in. Yeah, it looks good. Okay. So I think you guys get the idea. So whether you're using these panels or you're running actions, and many of these panels have basically the same actions. So even if you don't want to use the panel itself, the actions will do the same thing. Once you become familiar with what the what the scripts do, the panels do, then it'll be a lot faster just to jump over here to your actions and just run, whatever action, if I'm going to be doing healing. So let's just go back here and I'm going to flatten this and I'll show you real quick and then we're going to bring this to an end. So if all of these images are flattened, let's say there's, something I wanted to heal, I could just go back to the actions, and right here, this first action is for healing. So if I click on that, it tells me what it's for. And then it's created another layer for me to go in and do whatever my healing that I'm going to do, whatever, if I'm going to use, a healing brush, or if I'm going to use, one of the other tools, and I'm going to go in and take something out, and correct something or whatever it is. It's already created that extra layer for me. And I could just go in and, do whatever I'm going to do, and then boom, I'm done. Flatten that and move on to the next step. So, you just go through all your different steps. All right, guys. So hopefully today you've learned something, from this video. I know it's a little long, but, there's a lot to cover. So hopefully you guys will be able to, incorporate a lot of this into your workflow. And if that's the case, then, I did my job. All right. So if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do so. I will catch you guys in the next video. And as I always say, stay safe, wash your hands, and get out there and create something amazing.